Hello, everybody. We're so very glad you're here today. Thanks for joining us for our program called The Path of a Spiritual Warrior Through Horse Wisdom. My name is Selena Poole, and my business name is Conscious Collaborations. I partner with leaders who are taking us into the new paradigm of work and spirit by producing virtual events like this one and creative communications that speak to us on many levels of awareness and that evoke the heart and soul. Before I introduce Lisa and Shelley, your hosts for today, I want to give you just a few tips about getting the most out of your Hangout experience with us. Much of the energy and magic of this series happens in the interactions between you and the other participants while you're watching. Be sure to use the chat to talk to each other or submit questions to our hosts. As we have time, we'll answer your questions live. It's our intention that you find this Hangout inspiring, informative, and well worth your valuable time. I know there's a lot of new folks with us today, so here's just a few tips on how to get started. Look for the white column on the right of your screen. At the top of this column is the chat stream. At the bottom is the message box in which you type. If you haven't already, please say hello. Tell us where you are in the world. Your comments are public to the group, so you can say hi to any of your friends that you see here. We're going to have a great time today. We've got some exciting guests, too. We're expecting this Hangout to last about 65, maybe 70 minutes, so let's get started. During this three-part series, Lisa and Shelley share their stories of how they've discovered their paths as spiritual warriors. Special guests today will share where they are on their paths and how horses have played an inspirational role. And you'll discover how you can move your path forward with Lisa and Shelley to create the life and business you've always wanted. Now I'm going to turn our Hangout over to Lisa to introduce herself, our co-host Shelley, and today's program. Lisa?
Thank you, Selena. It's always so lovely to have your sweet face and shiny eyes to introduce us and get us going here. I so appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Hello. Welcome. I'm so honored to have you with us today in part 3 of our series. I'm Lisa Morrell from Equine Alchemy, along with my partner, Shelley Whitehouse, who you'll meet very soon. And during our limited time together, we promise to share with you everything that we possibly can to explore and grow your relationship with detachment and create lasting transformation in your life. Shelley and I both shared our stories last time about what brought us into this work. And we did that in the first episode and we did it in the second one. So you can always watch the replay if you're brand new and if you want to hear it again. And let's just say, the whole path is about finding spirit and courage in living our lives and the challenges that we have along with the blessings. Today we're going to hear from our special guests, Kim Carpenter and Rebecca Skeel, two amazing women that I asked because I was so wanting them to be a part of this. They have their own paths of spirit and they're going to share with us how horses have impacted their path, have supported them on their path, so we'll be doing that later. So welcome to both of you, and it's great to have you here. All right, let's talk about what we're going to cover today, because we want to really give you the content that we talked about before around the practice of detachment. And so first, Shelley will share some of what other people have been telling us about their journey so far. We love hearing from you. And of course, you can certainly put it in the chat, and Selena's going to be checking that all the time. I try to do a lot of things, but I can't do everything at once, so thank you again, Selena and Shelley. We'll have a quick recap of our discussion from episode 2 as we prepare you to get into high intention and low attachment, or the practice of detachment. We'll share a story or two about detachment and how it will impact your life, how their struggles and or challenges with it and working with the horses has helped them to have everything that they really wanted in their life. their desires, but first they had to let go. First they had to let go. And then finally, we'll invite you again into a powerful way to take this work that you have been experiencing in the first two, as well as today, into your life so that you can really, as I said, have lasting transformation. So that's a big amount of time. So we're kind of trying to go quickly and pay attention, honoring everything that, all the time that you have put aside to be with us here today. So thank you for that. Let me turn it over to you, Shelley, and can you just tell us about who you are?
Hi, everybody. Lisa and I are really glad that you're here with us today. And we did, like she said, share our stories in the first and the second episode, and just a glimpse about what brought us to this work. In Lisa's case, it was how she went through somewhat of an identity crisis as she moved through the corporate world of coaching and came to a place to bring a deeper spirituality to her work, through the experience of equine facilitated learning. And now again, as she's coping with her beautiful daughter, who's only 26, and she's struggling with schizophrenia and her addiction. And right now, Lisa's spiritual practice, her practices are more important than ever. And it was our discussions around this that brought us to this work, the path of the spiritual warrior. For me, there's many threads in my life that these practices have supported me. And one of them that I shared and I often joke about is that I have PTMD. We call that post-traumatic moving disorder. And I know Selena can really empathize with me on this right now. She's in the midst of moving. And I am going to be 55 next month, and I've lived in 40 different homes in 9 different states. And 30 of those moves took place by the time I was 30 years old. So I make the PTM joke because it makes me laugh and it makes other people laugh. But the truth is, all of the lifetime of rootlessness created a really deep depression that has taken me years to climb out of. And many of you shared in your heartfelt notes and words some of these similar experiences. You shared a lot of gratitude for this forum, to have a place to share an understanding. Some of you traveled really similar paths, and some not so similar, yet it's still a journey. We heard from people who recently lost a job. We heard from someone who stepped into the uncertainty of leaving the job on her own because it was unfulfilling, and then had a dream job float right into her life months later unexpectedly as she was traveling her path. We've also heard from other people who have children with mental illness, children with addiction themselves. We've heard from people who've identified their great work in the world, but they're terrified to take the plunge. They're terrified to share themselves with the world. And we've heard from people who are still wondering what their great work is and how they can bring it forth for themselves. So like Lisa shared in the first episode of this series, we all have those still fragile places in our psyches that require us to adhere to a special path, to keep us sane and to keep us connected to a higher truth. All of us are exactly in the right place at the right time as warriors of our own spirit. And we know there's a lot of you out there because we've had over 513 people take the Spiritual Warrior Quiz as of this morning. That's pretty awesome. That tells us there's a lot of people who are interested on where they are in their path right now. When we shared the results from the quiz in the first episode, there was only 285 people who had taken it. More than half of you said that you are known for doing what you say you will do, that you're accountable. That's pretty awesome. But what's interesting is the next biggest number is that more than half of you struggle with self-care as a priority. So this makes us wonder, is it easier to commit to someone else's needs and desires than it is to commit to our own? So we have a question for you today. We want you to write this down. What assumptions and beliefs am I attached to around my own self-worth? I'm going to repeat that. So what assumptions and beliefs am I attached to around my own self-worth? Write that question down, and as we go through the talk today, and Lisa takes us through the lesson on detachment, see what your assumptions and beliefs are. What are you attached to that is keeping you where you are right now? Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, let me ask, first of all, just to check in with the chat, we've got lots of people saying hello. It's very exciting. And it seems like we may have had a little technical glitch. So if you are having trouble either hearing or seeing us, please just refresh your browsers at the wherever your browser refresh button is. And then, Lisa, I just would like for you to share with us, who's this hangout today right for? How do people with us today know if they are in the right place?
Because you're here. You would not be here if this wasn't the place for you to be. If you weren't exhausted with trying to be who you're not, if you were not ready to step into the inner work that you need to support yourself. Shelley said something about the survey that self-care was one of the biggest challenges for everyone. Because you're here, you are taking care of yourself. And you're in exactly the right spot. So those of you who are wondering if you're in the right spot, you will love what I have to talk to you about today, because it's a lot about uncertainty and being attached to knowing. So know that those of you who are spiritual warriors, and I consider you that because you are here, we need you here. The world needs all of us. And knowing that, holding that as you listen to the rest of what we're going to be doing today is an important part. Knowing your self-worth. Embrace yourself, listen to your heart, listen to the wisdom of your heart. What is it saying? What is it telling you? Allow yourself to listen as we go through the next part of our journey here. Shelley, you want to do a little bit of recap over the last couple of episodes so those of you who are new will feel right at home?
Yes. Welcome. Right. So if this is the first opportunity you've had to join us, we don't want you to feel lost as we go forward today. So we'll share it. Last episode, we went over the 10 practices of a path of a spiritual warrior. And Selena's going to put a link in the chat. She already did. And if you have not already downloaded that, you can download your own PDF that will go over the 10 practices of a spiritual warrior. In our last call, we really went deeply into the practice of detachment. That's number 8 on the path. And we're going to go even deeper again today. It's such a big topic, we need 2 calls to cover that. So go ahead and download that. But if you don't remember what we talked about with regards to detachment, Lisa came up with a really great definition. And it's the state in which a person overcomes his or her attachment to desire for things, people, or concepts of the world, and thus attaining a heightened perspective. I love that. It's also viewed as the main obstacle on the path of a spiritual warrior, detachment. Many traditions identify that the lack of detachment with the continuous worries and restlessness that's produced by the desires for a specific outcome, that's what's holding us back. And in our last episode, Lisa shared a really beautiful illustration of a desire for specific outcomes with Susan's story. So be sure you watch that if you haven't already. And then the practice of detachment lets us know that to acquire anything in the physical universe, you have to let go of the attachment to it. So now this doesn't mean that you're giving up your intention to create a goal or that you're giving up your desire. A spiritual warrior is on his path in a clear intention to serve the greater good. You don't give up the intention and you don't give up the desire, but you do have to give up your attachment to the result of those things. So as we go forward, Lisa, what's the next concept we want to explore with regards to detachment?
Well, there's so many. Actually, when I was writing this, I realized no matter how deeply I can go in these time periods, I can't share with you everything that I want to share with you. However, within this amount of time, I want to talk about a few very basic concepts that are important other than what Shelley said. The first being that detachment is synonymous with wealth consciousness. That means that we believe everything is possible. We believe that through direct intention and detachment, we will always be taken care of because we are part of the universal consciousness. That is wealth consciousness. It doesn't just have to do with money. And with detachment, there's freedom to create. Only from detached involvement, that means letting go, can we experience the joy and the laughter where the symbols of wealth, which are the money and the cars and the successful businesses and all of those things that we desire, can they be created spontaneously and effortlessly? Only through that detachment. Without detachment, and I'm sure some of you can recognize this, we are prisoners of helplessness, hopelessness, mundane needs, trivial concerns, and quiet desperation from Pink Floyd, and seriousness. And this is the manifestation of poverty consciousness. So, right? Attachment is synonymous with wealth consciousness. Attachment is around poverty consciousness. So that's one thing we need to look at. Another thing that is part of the journey of detachment is that it equals uncertainty. When we said earlier, how do you know if you're in the right place? Well, if you don't know, then you're definitely in the right place. Because detachment is about not knowing. We only attach to things because they're known to us. And what is the known? But our past, our stories, everything that we've already been doing before. If we keep going on doing the same things over and over again, the known, then we just come up with the same thing again. So detachment is about letting go of that known, letting go of being attached to everything you've already known. And it's about going into what we call the wisdom of the unknown, or the wisdom of uncertainty, the wisdom of not knowing. And one of the things that makes that very difficult for a lot of people is because the opposite of detachment is uncertainty and security, right? So the opposite of detachment is security, is what I'm trying to say. There's so many of these words. When we want to feel secure, what do? We go to the same thing we've always known. We want to make sure we have enough money in the bank. We want to make sure that we have the right relationship. We want to make sure that we're accepted by everyone. That's security. But security is elusive. It doesn't really live anywhere. Detachment lives within our hearts. The letting go, the trusting, that lives in our heart. Security doesn't live anywhere. Let me tell you a story, and I know that we've referred to horses and horse wisdoms throughout this, and I really, I can't say this enough. For those of you who are with us that know about working with horses, you can relate to what I'm saying, but they are powerful mirrors to our attachments. Let me tell you about a story about a woman that I had that came to see me and the horses because she wanted to get more of insight into why she wasn't very successful in her relationships. She was very successful in her businesses. She had money. She was an attractive woman. She had everything it seems like somebody would want, right? But she wasn't successful in a relationship. In fact, she had a particular way that she thought a relationship should look. And she found that her relationships didn't look like that. And she perceived that she wasn't being valued for who she is, that it wasn't being recognized, and that her success was actually a magnet for needy men whose focus was more on themselves than it was on her or the relationship. So she came to work with the horses. And I set up an exercise, an experience with her we call mindful grooming, where you just spend time with the horse and you're doing grooming. It's one of my favorites because you just have a chance to really connect with the horse. Well, interestingly, it was clear that Jane's focus, this is the woman who came, was entirely on herself, not on the horse, the other person in the relationship. Not surprisingly, the horse, equine coach Tibber, he was really irritated, so he kind of dissociated and moved away from her. And from Tibber's perspective, this was not a relationship. This was another needy human whose focus was more on themselves instead of on the horse or the relationship, right? So Jane was so attached to her story and idea about not being fully acknowledged in her relationships, that she was playing that role in the relationship with the horse. So, right? She was attached to her story and her idea of what a relationship would look like and being valued would look like. Now, when I suggested that this might be happening, Jane was still unable to understand the role that she might be playing in creating the reality of an unfulfilling relationship. Attachment to her story, in this case, blocked any opportunity for awareness and connection in that very moment with the horse, which would have given her an experience of what it feels like to be in relationship in full reciprocity with another sentient being. So her attachment to her story enabled her to leave saying, well, the horse didn't like me. I just couldn't connect with him. So her story was validated from her perspective. She was attached to secure relationship. Remember when I said detachment? The opposite of detachment is security. She was attached to her version of what a relationship would look like. She was attached to her story about not being valued, and her reality played out that way. She was not detached to all of this. She couldn't even become detached when I suggested perhaps it was happening. So when we are looking at detachments, we need to look at what are our stories? What are our beliefs and assumptions? What is it that we're so attached to that, because it's known, that we can't let go of it and step into the unknown? As I said, the search for security is an illusion. It's not something, I mean, how many times do you know people who say, I searched their whole lives for security, either in a relationship, in a job, in money, and they don't ever find it. So uncertainty or detachment is necessary for the fertile ground of freedom and creativity, because you're letting go of what you thought was possible and you're opening up to what might be possible. You're stepping into something that you do not know the outcome. Now that's kind of scary for a lot of people, right? Stepping into the unknown, you don't know what the outcome's going to be. Well, there's been a lot of work done on vulnerability lately. Uncertainty, not knowing, this is vulnerability. Stepping into the unknown, which is the only way to allow something else to happen other than what has continually been happening for you in any part of your life. The known is our past, and for Jane, it was her story. Always living in the known creates the same thing over and over again. I love what Deepak Chopra says about attachment in the known. I know that's a little bit further down in my notes. I guess I'll get to it in a little bit. I'm trying to follow that guideline or outline which talks about, which tells us what all the things I want to share with you in the time that we have. So vulnerability, let's talk a moment about that. Vulnerability feels just like fear. So it's important for us to know the difference between fear and vulnerability if we're going to step into the unknown or embrace attachment. Fear is our body's natural warning system that tells us that there is a threat and we need to either practice fight or flight. Whereas vulnerability, which by the way, like I said, sounds just and feels just like fear, is actually something coming from inside of us. It's an internal threat to our stories, our beliefs, and our assumptions. So if you can embrace this, the difference between fear and vulnerability, then you can take a moment to notice in your situation, is there a physical threat? Must I move to safety? Or is this coming from the inside? My beliefs and assumptions are being challenged. Because when vulnerability comes, the not knowing comes, we can actually get excited that something is about to be revealed. Something exciting, something joyful, something happy. Yes, that can come out of the unknown. We don't have to plan out every single moment of our lives to create the same thing over and over again. We can actually practice detachment to our attachments and let go and step into this vulnerability or this unknown. In fact, vulnerability is a critical ingredient on being on the path of a spiritual warrior. It's a critical ingredient to actually living a full life and transforming how you're interacting with your environment and in your relationships. So fear is a response from the outside. Vulnerability is coming from the inside. And the spiritual warrior has a choice every single moment to step into that vulnerability. And you can do that if you open up to stepping into the unknown. And now I get to tell you what Deepak says. In the words of Deepak Chopra, your tormentor today in the known is yourself left over from yesterday. It sounds like kind of like old food, doesn't it? Your tormentor today is yourself left over from yesterday. That's what happens when we are always in the know. So when you experience vulnerability, you are on the right path. So don't give it up. And a spiritual warrior looks from detachment into the excitement of possibility of what can occur. And this brings us to the next point that I think is an important part for you to really take a look at. As I said, when I was working with Jane, she couldn't entertain the thought that she was playing the very role that kept her from having unfulfilling relationships. She was limiting her possibility of having a fulfilling relationship by insisting that it look exactly as she had planned. That's the thing with vulnerability. That's the thing with detachment and walking into the unknown. You're entering into the field of possibilities. Consciousness, everything that is an infinite number of possibilities from where you are now to where you want to be. And by attaching to a certain point in between where you are now and the outcome that you want, you are actually limiting those possibilities. You have to embrace not knowing so that you can taste, feel, experience any of these possibilities. So know that there's more than what you just think, basically. There's everything out there. And if you really want to move forward, you will not limit those choices by being attached to your story, your beliefs, your assumptions. Now, I want to say something that's also very important, is that detachment does not interfere with intention and desire. It is critical for you to have clear intention, being very connected to your heart and soul. What is my intention? What is the desired outcome? As Shelley said in the very beginning, or someplace in here, that you have to let go of the outcome, not to the intention and the desire. Because if we have clear intention, and if we know the outcome, the goal, how our life might possibly be through this intention, then we have to let go of how we're holding it. We also are preparing. We have to do our part too, right? Due diligence. When we are creating our life, creating our reality through one of the practices on the path of the spiritual warrior, detachment, we have to have clarity. We have to say, this is what I want. The universe wants us to be very specific. This is what I want. This is the outcome, the feeling that I want. This is the energy that I want. And you have to allow the universe to do its job. So you're prepared. You walk into the unknown trusting in unquestionable belief that you will be taken care of. And you allow the flow and the energy of what creation really is. And from that place, you can experience life in a completely different way. A completely different way. Okay, I'm checking our time here, and I want to tell you one other thing. Detachment accelerates the whole I'm going to try that again. Detachment accelerates the whole process of transformation and evolution. Just like I was describing, Once you step into it with prepared awareness, I like to call it, into the unknown, you practice detachment, letting go. You don't feel compelled to force solutions. How many times do you try to put that square peg in the round hole? Trying to make the solution be something that you know, that you're familiar with. Detachment allows you the energy, because first of all, pounding that square peg in the round hole takes a lot of energy and effort. Through detachment, we can allow solutions to just unfold and emerge out of what looks like chaos. And believe me, I feel like I'm in a lot of chaos now through everything that's going on with my daughter. I don't know. I do not know. And I cannot pretend to be attached to any kind of outcome around what's going on with her and her illness. So I have to be prepared. I have to do my due diligence. I need to have a clear intention for her and for myself and for our family. I have to be able to walk into the unknown with complete trust that I'm going to be taken care of. That is the path of a spiritual warrior. And if I step back in this trust, in practicing all of the other practices, I can, with grace, watch the solutions unfold and emerge that are in harmony and fluidity with that of the Creator. So detachment allows you the energy and the grace to allow solutions to unfold for you in your circumstance. Well, that was a lot. I know it was, and I have so much more to tell you. But just know, in the practice of detachment, when prepared presence meets opportunity, the solution will naturally appear. Believe that. Hold that, at least for this time while you're here with us today. Okay, Selena, can you share with us the chat about all of that information, or how people are feeling, what they're thinking?
Sure, yeah, we've just had lots of folks saying hello and welcome, and they're glad they're here. We've also got our two guests joining us. They'll be here in just a few minutes, and so, I think everyone's on the edge of their seats. They haven't had a lot of comments right now, but we do have a whole room full of people watching. So
that's great. Well, let me just say this. Detachment requires faith. Faith in something, faith in the greater good, faith in the universal consciousness, but also faith that you are part of that greater good, universal consciousness. And the path of a spiritual warrior is filled with that faith and that detachment. So having invited you into that place, what I'd like to do is share some of my fun, wonderful people I love in my life. First person I want to invite to speak is Rebecca Skeel. Some of you may have heard me talk about Rebecca earlier. She's one of my mentors and a dear, dear friend and colleague who is also on her own path of spirit. And I had asked her to come and share with us what her experience has been on her path and with the horses. And she said, well, I'm not sure what I should be saying. And I said, just tell people about your experiences. So welcome with all my heart, Rebecca. Are you hooked up and ready to talk? There you are. I think your microphone is muted. Just a second.
Okay,
there you
I think
go.
I unmuted myself. Okay, can everyone hear me? Hello, hello.
Hello,
hello.
hello.
Look at this beautiful array.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So, well, thank you for inviting me, Lisa, to be on your wonderful webinar. You and name just went out of my head right then.
Selena and Shelley.
Shelley, thank you. Just I'm already focused on being in the ring with a horse, so I was not tracking names there for a moment. So you wanted me to just talk about my experience with the horses. And yes, I am a spiritual teacher and a heaven on earth mentor. And I have been doing my work for over 25 years. And right now I work with people who really want to bring their sacred calling and their sacred ambition out into the world. And one of the things I was thinking about before this call, Lisa, when you asked me to talk about my experience with the horses, was presence. Um, when my experience has been that as I want to step more into the expansive spirit of who I am and be the spiritual warrior in my life, being present with myself is one of the first steps. And learning how to be present with oneself is a process. We don't realize how distracted, how much we are moving from remote. In other words, we're doing something because we're conditioned to do it rather than it's what we are really present to. And my experience with the horses is that the horse reflects instantaneously where I am in my consciousness. It's such an incredible reflection in the moment, instantaneously, so that our mind can be saying, oh, I'm in my heart, or oh, I'm present, or oh, you know, I'm having so much fun, or I'm not having fun, or whatever it is, and the horse just, bam, just right there reflects it. And it's such a instantaneous experience, and you know, we don't get those kinds of experiences usually in our day-to-day life. Because we're so much in our story or our head or our conditioned behavior or other realities other than what is present right here, right now. So my experience was, first of all, having such a instantaneous response to where I thought I was and I wasn't. And then when I began to tune more in and go, okay, all right, I get this. So what do I need to shift inside of myself? Then to be instantaneously validated by the horse was then the next big surprise. It was like, whoa, look at that. I did get into my heart, and look, the horse responded. And the horses, in my experience, are just in the moment so much. And of course, in that huge heart field, I don't know if you've talked about that, you probably have. And so this validation that happens so quickly, it's, again, we don't get that kind of feedback in our lives very often. And so to me, the horse work and being in the ring with the horses and working with the horses really helps one get out of the head, get out of the BS, get out of the conditioned responses, and get right into the moment. And from there, then, you can learn and practice, oh, this is what it means to be in my heart. This is what it means to be present. This is what it means to be vulnerable. You were talking about vulnerability earlier. This is what it means to be authentic and congruent inside of me. And I think that work is so valuable, which is one of the reasons that I've invited your horse work to be part of the Sacred Ambition work that I do, because it's such a way of getting in touch with who we are beyond word level, beyond ego personality, beyond all of the different modalities that we put ourselves in, or spiritual posturing that we think we need to be or do or have, to say, oh, okay, I'm where I need to be. I just say the horses cut right through that and get right to what's really going on. And I love it. I love it. And I want to say one more thing. You were talking about the unknown earlier in detachment. For so many of us on this path of spirituality, of awakening to who we are, of embracing, embodying who we are, the unknown is, as you said, exactly where we need to go. And it's really the inner realms of who we are that are the places that shake us loose from all of the stuff that we've accumulated. And the horses just live there. You know, they just live right there. And so being in their presence is such a beautiful experience of that. I hope I answered your question. I think you're muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's wonderful, Rebecca. Thank you. Thank you so much. I guess I just, I just can't tell everyone enough about how much having a mentor, first of all, has made such a difference in my life and my work, and being able to have a path. It makes all the difference in the world to everything that's happening to me right now, and my ability to walk this path of a spiritual warrior. So, Rebecca, again, my heart out to you. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here.
All my love, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And bye, Shelley. Bye, Selena.
Okay. Yeah. Did we have anything in the chat that we want to look at before we talk to Kim?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right. So I am also wanting to welcome one of my newest, dearest mentors and friends and colleagues, Kim Carpenter. Kim is a business mentor, social entrepreneur, and human evolutionary person. She has, I think there's a typo in here, she teaches business skills to people who want to change the world. That's amazing, right? That wouldn't be any of you, no? She's helped hundreds of entrepreneurs clarify their vision and get focused on the right business activities to generate a steady stream of ideal clients. Now you know why I know Kim, because she's on her path of spirit and she's out in the world making a difference. So welcome, Kim. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's great to be here with all of you. And I so appreciate the work that I got to do with you, and would just love to tell people a little bit about that. Would that sound good?
I'd love to hear your perspective. You know, I always loved horses, but it's great to hear other people say what they feel.
Well, for me, yeah, so I got to work with Lisa about a month ago and do a whole day of horse work with her. And it was leading up, it was right before co-facilitating at a live event that I was going to be doing public speaking at and giving a talk for the very first time. So I had some nervousness about that, and I just knew that really diving deep into the work with Lisa the day before that was going to really help me just step more fully into myself and that energy of the spiritual warrior. But I got so much more than I expected, and of course, as life does, life showed up with some interesting challenges for me at the same time. And so first of all, I had a fear of horses because I had some trauma from my childhood around that, and so I was unbelievably touched by the work I got to do with the horses, but really guided by Lisa. And she took us through a process of really looking at our unique form of leadership and expression and stepping into that spiritual warrior space within ourselves. And I, too, just like Rebecca's story, you know, I went into this thinking, okay, I'm going to overcome my fear of horses. But what I got to see from the horses was such tremendous love and that instantaneous reflection, like Rebecca talked about, where when I was in my heart, they came right to me. And for the first time, I experienced a horse I was just in tears, and it came right to me and just rubbed its nose on my whole body, because you know their heads are as big as we are. And it was just so moving, because I got that instant recognition of, oh yeah, this is who I really am, without any of those barriers, without like pretending to be brave or strong about any of this. It was just total love and acceptance. So I had that visceral body experience. So if you have a chance to work with Lisa and the horses, jump on it. Don't even think about it. Just do it. And then moving into the workshop, what was incredible was, while I was at that workshop, I found out that my father has brain cancer. So it just, having had that work with her, enabled me to still stay present at the event, still be able to get up and give my talk from my heart, knowing that I can't be at home helping my dad. And I'm actually in my dad's office right now, so you can see pictures of helicopters here, because I'm at my parents' home helping to support during this massive transition time, and talk about, you know, detachment, Lisa, and everybody. Like, this is cancer, you know, and it has its own path, and my father has his own path. So what I'm seeing every day, this horse work that I did a month ago, I feel like is unfolding in my life every single day as I step more fully into my spiritual warriorship, knowing that it's not about what I do or how well I teach people how to start a business or run a business. It is who I am. It is who I am with my family in the face of these really challenging times, witnessing my father, you know, quite frankly, losing his mind, losing his body functions, just being so incredibly present with him through this incredible transition, and also doing my work at the same time, you know, still fulfilling my obligations to my clients, and I have to have that grounding. So thank you so much, Lisa. I didn't have a chance to tell you yet the true impact that even that one day has had in my life and continues to have every day. So thank you.
Oh, Kim, thank you. That is so lovely to hear. I feel it. I feel all of the stuff coming out. I think this whole thing about we're not there in person is just not really real. So, and I will have prayers for your father and your family in my heart.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you both so much for being here, everyone. Breath. Now that you've had an opportunity to experience this work through some introspection, some of the homework we gave after one of the modules, the question that Shelley asked you about earlier, and through this deep dive into detachment, through the sharings of Kim and Rebecca, and how that felt to be on their path and be with the horses and everything that we've done. How do you feel? Just take a moment. Take a breath and listen to your heart. Remember, I asked you to listen from that wisdom of the heart as you heard about detachment. So I'm going to ask you to continue doing so for about 10 more minutes, because we really want to invite you into this sacred space of possibility. Remember when I said about detachment being synonymous with wealth consciousness? And that it is, when you step into detachment and you step into the unknown, you're stepping into a field of infinite possibility. So I'm asking you to do that. And what comes up for you when I ask these two questions? Do you want more meaning, prosperity, and purpose in your life? Do you want to walk the path of a spiritual warrior that will support you in all of the things in your life? Well, as I said before, when Selena asked me if this is how do people know if this is the right place, I'm figuring since you are here, you're ready. And the answer to both of those questions is yes. Yes, yes, yes. And Shelley and I definitely want you to follow that instinct, follow that message from your heart. And if you're here, it also means that you're probably willing to work, to do the inner work that's necessary. You just need some guidance. You need some gentle holding, loving in the sacred space of possibility. So from this point, I want to talk about how you can engage in a path of being a spiritual warrior and practicing the 10 practices through a very special place that Shelley and I have created for you. But before we do that, Selena, was there anything in the chat? Anything people wanted to let us know?
We're good. Just
okay.
Keep going.
All right. All right. So take that deep breath again. Get into that heart wisdom. Open your arms. Shelley, you want to talk about that sacred space of possibility?
Yes. Yes, thank you. And Lisa, the whole conversation on detachment, and thank you to Rebecca and to Kim. You all brought so much passion and experience to the conversation today, so thank you very much. Lisa and I, we want once again to invite you, all of you, into this sacred journey into self with us. We also have a really special one-time offer for those of you who are on the call with us today, or if you're listening to this. So be sure to listen right to the end, because this isn't going to be available to anyone else. It's just a short window to take advantage of this, so listen to the end. We've created a sacred space for sharing our experiences and our wisdom. And we created this through the 5 energies on the path of a spiritual warrior and the 10 practices of a spiritual warrior. And we've created a special setting and a special container. This is a sacred space of possibility. It's a 2-part course. You have 2 options. It's virtual only or virtual and in person. And the in person is where the wisdom of the horses are going to show us all those unintegrated and powerful aspects of ourselves that we are not aware of. This is an introductory course into this work of a spiritual warrior. You're going to come away transformed. I can promise you that. We know this because everyone who has worked with this, and you just heard from Rebecca and from Kim both, that the work completely changes their perspective. It can change your life. You won't be the same known person. There's a community of like-hearted and like-minded individuals here that are going to support you on your path. You're also going to have the tools to embrace the doubt and the discipline and the self-care and all those things that you've been struggling with without shame or blame or judging. And you're going to get to experience yourself through your own infinite possibilities from a gentle and loving, supported place. So we want you to join us on this sacred journey, this journey of the spiritual warrior. And we're going to live into the 10 practices. This is all about clarity, and it's about manifestation. So the 2 options, again, you have virtual only, which is 5 content and coaching sessions. All the virtual work is going to take place on the phone or on the web, and you're going to have some home practices in between sessions. Now, the virtual with the retreat includes those 5 coaching and content sessions, but it also includes an evening and 2 full days of equine experiential personal spiritual development. The retreat work is an opportunity to really embody the learning, and it's a step into a whole other plane of consciousness, horse consciousness. And this is an opportunity to experience yourself from a whole new perspective. So here's how the course is laid out, and here's what you're going to experience as a result of going through this course. By the end of week 1, you'll have a new understanding of accountability and the importance of trusting yourself, as well as some simple and some important practices for creating sacred space for yourself and for others in your personal and your professional life. This is the whole foundation of all the other practices. By the end of week 2, you're going to uncover some hidden stories and unconscious, unexamined beliefs through guided meditations and exercises that we've created to help you expand your personal awareness. You're going to identify those toxic myths that you've been held, that are holding you back, those myths that are keeping you from embracing a chosen community of support and your own spiritual growth. By the end of week 3, we know you're going to start to really have a sense of freedom, some joy, and some strength as you start to connect with the language of your heart and the wisdom of your body. This will really put you on the true meaning to your purpose and to your prosperity. And in week 4, we expect you're going to come away with a sense of relief and some self-love as you begin to see yourself through the eyes of your own soul. You're going to begin to identify the attachments that have been preventing you from a clear direction and the attachments that are preventing you from the purpose in your life. We want you to be able to center on your true nature. And then by the end of the 5th call, you're going to have a whole new relationship with discipline, your ability to notice within yourself when you are supporting the divine and when you are not. You'll have a whole new perspective and about your place, your whole new perspective, your place in the world, a fresh and a higher sense of self with more meaning and purpose and prosperity for all of your tomorrows. And then for those of you who join us in the retreat, this is going to be a full immersion into the experience and the embodiment of collective consciousness. This is human, horse, and herd. We have to all do our own work, but the awareness of ourselves will be amplified and anchored through your physical experience with the herd. So coming together for a sacred honoring and an exploration through the way of the horse, it provides a safe container for us to try on our new courage and our new vulnerability. And by the end of the retreat, you'll come away with a new relationship to yourself and your perception of others. You may notice that you're going to experience more gratitude and more patience and more understanding for yourself, for the work that you're doing, and where you are in your community. So the dates for the retreat are this coming October 30th. It's a Friday evening, all day Saturday on the 31st, and Sunday on the 1st. And then those of you who are part of the retreat are also going to receive a follow-up call on Thursday, November 5th, so that we can go through some of the anchoring that you're going to experience as a result of being in the retreat. You're also going to receive access to our private Facebook online community, The Path of a Spiritual Warrior Herd, and you're going to get transcripts for all the sessions. Those transcripts are invaluable for going back and looking over what was taught, what your experience of it was. These calls are live and interactive. You'll be able to speak with us. So this is an opportunity to even go back and you can listen to the recording or read the transcript and see what your own learning was for that. Okay, we have a really special price for this, and the price ends at midnight, September 28th. Hang on, there's a little bit more here. There's a link that Selena has put in the chat room. It's for those of you listening and you might not see the chat. The link is equinealchemy.com/PSW course. equinealchemy.com/PSW course. All one word. You can go there and see all of the dates for when the calls are and how to register, and find out that you can save 25% if you register by September 28th. And the reason we chose September 28th is because it's the full moon. The full moon is the time of completion. And we'd like you to complete your decision-making process by September 28th, and so we are rewarding you with a 25% savings as a result of registering by then. Now, the very special offer for only those of you who are on the call with us right now or listening to this is in honor of the new moon. Remember, in the 10 practices we spoke in the second episode, that one of the things that is important on the path of a spiritual warrior is to be in rhythm with nature and the earth and the ecosystem. And so this is why we've incorporated the flow of energy that is happening with the moon, the full moon and the new moon. So the new moon is this Sunday, September 13th. And those of you who enroll by this Sunday at midnight Eastern Time, September 13th, you're going to receive a special bonus of a private coaching session with either Lisa or myself. This is a $250 value. This is going to be an opportunity for you to have a private session to really go over your intentions and desires for your path. This is an incredible opportunity to really set your path before we even start the course. So go to the registration page now, equinealchemy.com/PSW course. All of the payments and registration is time stamped and date stamped, so we know who's qualified for the $250 coaching session. But you do have to do it by Sunday at midnight Eastern Time. Okay? So that's only for people who are watching this right now or who are listening to this replay. So thank you for being with us. We are very, very excited about this course. This is something that we've been talking about for well over a year, and its time has come. So.
Yes, it certainly has. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you. Again, you can go and find out all the goodies at equinealchemy.com/PSW course. So take a moment before we sign off. How do you feel? Check in with yourself. The path of a spiritual warrior is very connected to self. And can you feel the power of this community, this like-hearted and like-minded community? Everything that we've shared over the past 3 webinars. Check in with yourself. Can you feel it? Can you imagine what your life would be like if you had that all the time? Remember what I was saying to Rebecca? Having a mentor was so impactful for me, one of the most important things I've ever done. And this is a time, an opportunity for you to have that from Shelley and I for this period of time. If you don't have support, you cannot move forward. The heart is a very lonely hunter. We invite you to join the Equine Alchemy herd and the community of spiritual warriors on their path. So thank you, Selena. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, all of you, for being here, Kim and Rebecca. And you'll be hearing some reminders about the replay for those of you who want to hear it again. Thank you. All right, bye-bye for now.